God's good is not our good. In other words, our definition of good is not the same as God's definition of good, which in one sense, God's good is absolute perfection. And in another sense, this is deep now, because God has these plans and knows the end, he can see, use, and cause what we perceive as bad as good. Let me repeat that. Because God has these plans and knows the end, he, above it all, can see, use, and cause what we perceive as bad as good. This is a mind shift here. Can you lower me a little bit? This is a mind shift here. Let me give you some examples. Watch this. Just a couple chapters before this, Jeremiah 29:11 says, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, like these good figs, so I will regard as good the exiles from Judah, whom I have sent away from this place to the land of the Chaldeans." We don't see being in captivity as good, but God saw his people in captivity as good, because knowing his plan, he knew they would return to him. Missed a couple verses, so I'll just say them to you. Isaiah 53:10 says, "But it was the Lord's good plan to crush him," being Jesus, "and cause him grief." A different translation says, "It pleased the Lord to crush him." We see the crucifixion, we don't see the crucifixion as good because Jesus was killed. But God saw the crucifixion as good because knowing his plan, it brought about salvation to the entire world. Good Friday. Psalm 116:15. "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." We don't see the death of our loved ones as good. But God sees the death of Christians as good because according to his plan, they come into his eternal presence. Genesis 50:20, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." We don't see everything that happened to Joseph as good. Hated by his brothers, sold into slavery, thrown into prison, but God saw it and meant it as good because according to his plan, it saved many lives. For those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. All things, bad things, his purpose, his plan, not to harm you, not to hurt you, not for evil, for good, according to God's good, which by definition is not our good. Listen, painful, scary, agonizing things may come into your life as part of God's ultimate plan, and I have no idea why or how he's going to use them for good, but he is, and he will. And again, we have to be okay with this. We have to be okay with not understanding and trust that he knows what he's doing because he does. Believe that. Try and see that. Let me tell you what God's good consisted of in my life. An arrest, public humiliation, internet slander, solitary confinement. Lost my job, lost my pension, lost my benefits, lost my home, my vehicle, my money, my so-called friends, my so-called life. I was then hung out in limbo for 5 years while I awaited trial. The absolute lowest, most terrifying, most painful, gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, soul-shaking time of my life, God saw all of that as good. And it was. It was the absolute best thing for me, because I came to know Christ, which is God's good plan for all of us.